Welcome everyone back to the Growing Money with Sean Trace podcast. And I have a really awesome guest with me today. And would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Oh, hello everyone. I'm Sandra Park. I'm living here in the Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas area. And I'm an engineer in my day job. I've been doing that for a little over 20 years. But
Nice.
on the side, I'm a financial coach, and I'm building a financial coaching business where I coach clients one-on-one with their personal finances. I call coaching helping people manage money through their behaviors,
Yes.
mindsets, education, accountability, and support, rather than just managing the money itself. So helping people manage their money better.
I love this. And I want to touch on this really quick because I studied acupuncture and Chinese medicine. And I was getting my degree, did martial arts, lived overseas, and came back to LA. And I actually stepped away from the program and am finishing it now with a different mindset. But one of the things that was interesting that we were talking about is that when people go in to get a health consultation, it's really easy to think about this in terms of health.
Yeah.
Because when you go in to see a doctor, there's so many doctors. There's so many types of specialties. There's so many things, it's like, so I'm trying to raise my daughter. Well, I have to go see this person for the routine checkup. Then we got to go see this person for braces. We got to go see this person to get this done. And it's just like, it's dizzying sometimes to figure that out. And it's even more dizzying when someone has a minor problem that is not really what these big people look at, and they're just like, oh, hey, I'm lost in the middle. And I feel like the financial industry is very similar in ways. There is, if you're a high net worth individual, you need this person and this person. But if you're a person who's really having a hard time, you need this. Well, what if you're just like most people? You've got this mix of all these things. And like a coach to me is a person who can sit down and go, all right, I'm on your team, because there's this whole new emerging field of health coaches that allow people also to like a financial coach to kind of like, all right, let's talk about where you're at and what you can do. And I love it because coaches are this beautiful place of, don't we all need someone to cheer us on and get us to where we want to be and where we can be, where we have the potential to be?
Yes. And that's a perfect description of it. It's empowering the person rather than you're coming in and fixing their finances. You're not coming in to manage their money. And once people learn these skills, they will take it with them the rest of their lives. And it multiplies over time. And that's what I love about coaching, because it's more just the day-to-day, like people struggling with, I can't make it till the end of the month, or I have no idea where any of my money's going, rather than, I'm going to help you build all this wealth to become a millionaire. If they're worried more about their day-to-day and paying bills and not having money towards the end of the month, that's more emergent. And that's what they care about a little more than just investing a lot of money, right? Because they don't even have the money to invest yet. So I think it's a bigger need sometimes. And if people could learn this so much earlier in their lives, and the skills, and you're trying to impart the skills in them so they actually don't need you for the rest of their lives. That's what I think a good coaching relationship is. You don't want this dependence. You want to help, build them up. They get all the tools. They have a better mindset. They have better behaviors. And now they can go manage their money themselves.
And there's one great analogy too that I love analogies. That's my thing. And so I played sports when I was a kid. And one of the things that I loved about a coach, like a sports coach, they can't play the game for you.
Yes.
They're on the sideline. And you are the player. They're not going to be like, all right, Tommy. I watched this awesome video on Instagram the other day of this kid. And it was like Little League. And this tiny little kid. And he was running toward the home base. And he was running toward home. And halfway between third base and home, the kid is like, time to do somersaults, so he just starts doing these forward rolls, and the coach is like pulling his hair out. He's like, oh my goodness, come on, kid. but they couldn't touch the kid. They couldn't pick him up, grab him and say, stop doing somersaults, stop doing forward rolls. I like, you're going to lose it. You're going to, but the kid was having fun. And the coaches these two coaches are like, stand up. And finally the kid looked up at them and was like, okay, I'm going to stand up. And he ran to the end, but they couldn't do it for him. You know, like as a financial coach, you can tell someone, you shouldn't be going and buying those impulse buys. Yeah. But like when they're sitting there late at night looking at that shopping app going, this looks lovely. Ooh, a sale. You know, that self-control is something that you can share with them. Can talk to them about it, but they have to do it.
Yeah, that is very vital. And you can't want it more than the person wants it for themselves, right? And at the end of the day, it's kind of the stuff they do in between the sessions that matters more, right? And it's just, they're on their own. So same like health or fitness, you know, you can hire a trainer, but if you're eating very poorly in between, right, it kind of undoes a lot of the work, right?
Yeah. There's another analogy I have too, but there's something about a coach as well. I'm on a roll today, man. But one of the things that my wife grew up in Vietnam, and it was really interesting because she is not built like most of the people in the entertainment industry here. She is strong. She is, and I last night she was rehearsing for this one activity, and she is a strong woman. She is like really muscular and strong, just naturally. And everyone here is just like, oh, she's too big. She's too big. But, you know, today or last night in this dance rehearsal, one of these other singers was like, my wife is kind of in a mini squat, grabs the girl and helps flip her over in a cartwheel. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, you are that strong that you can just like pick up this other girl and chuck her over. And my wife was like not even fazed by it. And here was the interesting thing that I want to point out. Like, in the worldview that she grew up in, no one could envision her being this, you know? And like, if you grew up in a family where financial wellness was not taught, you can't even visualize what positive financial well-being might be because you just have had no experience. But when you have this different worldview, like a coach comes along and says, hey, you know what? Like if she had been younger and there was a great coach, they would have looked at her and said, weightlifting, gymnastics, MMA. Like my wife, she's really good at Muay Thai. She can hit hard. She can kick hard. And like, but there was no one there to say that, you know what, maybe you try that out. And that's what I love about the coach too. The coach can see what your potential is and tell you, hey, you've got this potential. I'm going to show you how to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it's about giving people hope. And sometimes you're looking at people's situations and you're thinking like, wow, like probably 6 months to a year, this could all be cleaned up. But you know, when it's your own personal situation, right, and money's super emotional, it's hard for people to have hope, right? And they're not used to any other way or behaviors, or like you're saying, good role models, or they're just kind of defeated to, I always spend more than what I make, or, you know, I'm always gonna, you know, put stuff on credit cards or be in debt, and kind of giving them that hope and showing them there's a different way is really powerful too.
I want to ask you this. What inspired you to get into finance, to start this coaching? How did you start your journey?
Oh, yeah. So I don't have the typical, like I paid off thousands and thousands of dollars debt type of story. Mine was, I got into personal finance because I had to go on my own personal finance journey. And it was what I consider a little bit later in life. So it was 35 or so when I finally woke up to, you know, I really need to learn how to manage my own money. And it wasn't because I had a serious debt situation. It was more just, I was just treading water. I was just kind of barely surviving every month. And I was just kind of looking at how much money I made for the year. And I'm like, this is crazy because I don't have any of it. I don't know where all this money went. And it's kind of ridiculous to make this much money, work this hard. You know, I'm a professional with like a really good job, right? You know, being an engineer. So people on the outside are like, oh, you must have all this money and be doing well for yourself. And like, well, but I don't really have anything to show for it. I was definitely working really
Yeah.
hard in my career. I was climbing the corporate ladder, getting more and more pay raises, and kind of realizing it's just kind of like a hamster wheel where I'm just working and paying bills, and then I work some more and pay some more bills. And I just knew there was a better way where I had to like take more accountability and learn that stuff. I think the big shift was I left an employer that I had been at since I graduated from college. So it's kind of
Wow.
weird, but it's kind of like a breakup, right? Because like your first
Yeah.
company,
Right.
it was a really big company. I worked there a long time. And I think for a lot of people, life change inspires them to look at their money. So it was me leaving that company that was like, I have to start taking care of myself and doing something about this.
I love that because one of the things that you pointed out, like, there's this idea, like, and I know, and I love reading these stories because I'm carrying some student loan debt, and I am looking forward to the day that I can be like, I paid it off.
Yay.
Yeah, I that is a thing that I'm super excited about. But the thing is too is like, I don't think we can downplay people that also are dealing with different financial situations and still right their ship. You can be making a lot of money and it can be flying out the door. I saw this guy last night wearing a t-shirt that said more money, more problems, right?
Oh,
and I was
so
just
true.
like, and it's like when you get this extra stuff, what is, there's a term for it. There's some type of creep where you get more money
creep.
and
Yeah.
lifestyle creep.
Yeah.
You just start buying more.
Or it'll kind of mask
Did you
the
notice
problem of you needing to take care of your money because you're like, there's another paycheck coming, or there's another raise or promotion or a job. So I used to, I don't know, feel bad. I'm like, I don't have this really cool, like I've paid off thousands of dollars of debt story, but like, no, it was a different inspiration for me. And yeah, and I also love telling people, I didn't really come into learning personal finance till I was 35. So it's never too late. And even just like, I'm going to be 45 next year. So close to a decade of focusing on my finances, and it can change so quickly. It changes faster than you think. And it's never too late. So I tell people there's hope at every age and stage of life.
Yep. I'm 45 and I'm just starting my financial journey. So I'm with you. And like, I think for me, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's like, there was a certain point where it's like, well, you know what? No one's coming. I remember teaching kids a long time ago at this one school. And I would ask them, well, what do you want to do to be successful? And they're like, I want to be a rapper or an NBA player, or I'm going to win the lottery or something like that. And it was just like... Or a YouTuber, right? And it's like this out there, like, it's like this lottery mentality. But the reality is that anyone can start making changes to really get ahead financially.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I was one of those people that I had my wake up call kind of later in life, and and it just it's been such a journey, and I love it. And one of the first things I did years ago, back in 2016, was I took that Financial Peace University class, that Dave Ramsey class that I still teach to this day, because I mean, it's certainly, I didn't learn everything about personal finance in 9 weeks. No one does, but it definitely kickstarted that journey. Yeah.
I love that. Well, I signed up for your class. I'm so excited about that.
I know.
Because I'm super excited. I saw that you post about it on LinkedIn, and I was like, man, that's awesome. I want to check that out. And for me, I think that, like, I love what you're saying there as well, because as coming from a teaching background, I find that I learn more when I teach, when I share these skills. And I'm starting to craft a book concept that I had mentioned to you in our messaging. Like, I've been working with my daughter about financial concepts, and I was just like, I put it down on paper, needs versus wants, and she was just not interested. She was not vibing on it. And I actually had a podcast with Teddy about this, because I was like, after I put some content together for my daughter, I was like, dude, this is a great idea. And it was about needs versus wants in a zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
And then we also did some fun ones with like, a Jurassic Park type theme. The park falls. What do you need when want, and the idea of framing things in a way that's interesting because for adults as well, I think that so often, so much of the financial education out there is not as fun as it could be. Like, I mean,
Yes.
to me, it's fun. This is fun. And teaching my daughter, we bought a little piece of gold for her because she's like, I want to save something. And I was like, hey, in video games, you can buy gold. And she's like, yeah. And he's like, do you know you can do that in real life? And she's like, that's awesome. And then she put it aside and she saved this little piece of gold and she was so excited about it. And to me, it's like, that was fun. And it was fun because right before we did that, I did a little worksheet about Harry Potter and we watched Harry Potter and she saw the room full of gold galleons. And then she has this little piece of gold right now that she can't spend because there's this barrier to spending it.
Yeah.
And so it's fun to me and it made it fun to her. And so I love that.
Oh, me too. Me too. And I totally agree with that. Instead of people just parroting each other, you have your own interpretation, your own spin. We can all talk about the same things. And, you're trying to make it relatable to different audiences. And that's what I love about the personal finance space, where it's like I feel like a space for anybody, everybody, because people will relate to different people, right?
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
And each of us has our, it's like we can all help someone. Now, as we were talking earlier, I was thinking about this. Like, I always grew up with good, fun action movies. And one of the fun things that you think about with these action movies and such is that there was always like each character had a superpower. Ant-Man's superpower, he can shrink down. Thor can call in lightning. And I was talking to my daughter about how certain financial skills are like superpowers. Now, what are your favorite financial tips or skills that you would consider your superpowers?
Oh, okay. Budgeting, number one, is the foundation of everything. You have to know how much money's coming in, have a plan for your money, and know how much money you're actually spending. Then after that, saving, right? That's a huge core tenet. Everyone needs to have some money saved up. Investing. And then, to me, the other thing I love to talk about, because I have more of a career-focused niche of people, is just kind of the career income aspect, kind of advocating for yourself at work, being strategic in your career moves. I also think there's a huge correlation between money and career, where if people would actually take care of the money side first, you can actually build more of this career you want. Whereas I think people do it the other way around. They're chasing a certain career and income and money, and then they think that's going to fix everything. So those are kind of my core principles and things I love to talk about, especially the investing piece. And then, of course, if people do nothing else, the budgeting, number one. Yeah.
Talk to me about budgeting. What are some of the most important things that you can do when you start budgeting?
It's one of those things, it sounds deceptively simple, but it's not. And I realized that myself years ago when I first started. That was very frustrating for me because it's like, money comes in minus money goes out. Sounds very simple. It's like sixth grade math, but it's a lot of trial and error, to keep trying at it and be persistent. To me, a lot of people think budgeting is just creating the budget and then never revisiting it. You have to revisit that budget. You have to track expenses. You have to know how you're tracking against that budget. I also think it's important that people create realistic budgets. That's why I think a lot of people say they fail at budgeting. They have like $40 for groceries for the month. That's like, one adult couldn't survive on that. It's just like you're setting yourself up to fail, right? If you know, this is a more realistic grocery amount, and then you don't beat yourself up, right? And then you can always adjust and all that. But what else? Yeah, I mean, if people would just try it a whole lot more, because it is much, much harder than you think. It's simple in concept, harder to execute, harder to get the behaviors to follow. And I also believe the more people do it, it becomes habitual. But that's what's hard for people to
Yeah.
do it long enough to actually get to where it's a habit.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like my daughter was struggling with her piano playing, and she wanted to go do this. She wanted to go do that. These other things that were more flashy, more fun. Oh, I
Oh,
want to play
yeah.
video games. And it's so easy to just slide into these other things that are more entertaining. But one of the things that we found is that as we stayed with her and said, I'm going to sit here with you in this discomfort.
Yeah.
This seems uncomfortable right now, but we're here with you. We're going to go through this time together. Just we're sitting and enjoy it. And as she got acquainted, developed a relationship with the practice, it became easier. It became easier to do. And I think that from what I'm starting to see, because I'm still working on developing my budget and sticking to a budget, and the more I do it, the less daunting it is.
Yes.
The less scary it is. It's not easy,
No.
but it becomes more like, I can do this. This is something I can do.
Yeah, I love that you said that, because it definitely gets easier and it's less daunting. And now you have awareness around your money. And I tell people, you stop being so reactive to your spending, and now you can be more proactive, and now you're planning. And that's great that you're instilling habits with your daughter, even stuff that she may not love doing in the meantime, but in the long term, it's going to pay off. And it's those little things. I remember there was a time where I didn't really grow up flossing my teeth. I know this sounds weird, but then I had a dentist, and he's really like, you got to floss your teeth. Like, he's like, you could have much painless, shorter, easier appointments if you just flossed your teeth every day. So that was like a new habit I had to instill. And now, like, I can't not floss my teeth every day, right?
Right.
So it's just, and it saves so much time, because like I go to the dentist and it's like great visit, and then do the cleaning. But before, when I wasn't flossing regularly, it could be like a 2-hour long cleaning, right? With like lots of bleeding and, took forever. And it's just kind of like learning, if I put in that little bit of like less than 1 minute of flossing every day, how much it pays off. And it's kind of like that with budgeting, because I've got to the point where I can do it in less than 5 minutes a day. And it's a little bit like kind of like tidying up your garage or something, or cleaning up a room. And,
You're hitting the nail right on the head. Obviously, is exactly what I was thinking. Like, I was talking to my daughter about her room, and when we don't go at that room a little bit every day, and if I'm saving it once a week to clean up, you're just like, what just happened in here? And then it's like an hour, 2-hour thing to clean the room. But what we started doing was we started resetting every day. We'd finish up the day. We would come in and go, what little thing can we reset right now? Pick it up, clean it up, put it away. And what we started to notice is that it became much easier to keep the room clean. This little tiny bit of concerted effort daily, that you're not trying to, and I think it's got to be the same. You're sitting there like, I'll figure out my finances later. I'll figure out my budget later. And then suddenly you're 24 days into your pay period, and you're like, I'm out of money. And like, you're sitting there scrambling to fix this. But if you had to put a little bit of effort in every day, you wouldn't be there.
Yeah. And it's less than 5 minutes a day, but I've dialed in my budgeting. I've been doing it for so long, but I don't spend a lot of time on it. But same like you, if I let it pile up, all the transactions and the tracking for 2 or 3 weeks, I'd get frustrated too. I'd be like, oh, now I have 73 transactions. I need to categorize.
Right. Where did they come from? And I was talking to someone about this, like, for me, tracking my spending. Once my wife and we withdrew some money, and she traveled away for the weekend, and I had cash, because where I live, it's very cash based. And she came back, and she's like, hey, do you have any extra cash right now? I got to go. I have a shipper coming. And I was like, no, let me go withdraw some. She's like, where did the money go? And I sat there, and for a second, I was like, I didn't do anything. It wasn't a lot of money, but I just sat there, and I was like, where did it go? And that was one of the moments, that was my aha moment of like, I really need to be better aware of where stuff is flowing, Yeah. I always remember, I grew up, I'm an ex-ennial. I think we're about the same age from what you said.
Yeah.
And I grew up, one of the cartoons that I loved when I was younger was DuckTales. And Scrooge McDuck had the big money vault. And I remember there was an episode or something where there was a leak and the money was flowing out the bottom of this thing.
Oh.
And I don't know how gold coins can flow out, but and he's standing at the top and it's just going down like this. Like there was like water. And I was like, I don't think that's actually how gold works, but it's okay. It was flowing out. You can't swim in gold coins, first of all. Come on, Disney Channel, you were lying to me as a child. But as the money was flowing out, and if you have a leak somewhere in your flow, then you're going to have to find out where that's at. And if the leak gets too bad, then it's going to cause all types of other problems. And if you find it early and fast, it's really a lot easier.
Yes. And I also think money problems just magnify the more people make. Sometimes people think, well, if I just make more, it's going to take care of all that. But I'll see it sometimes where people have the same debt ratio. They'll be like, oh, I was 10K in debt when I made 40K, and then now they're making triple that, and their debt has somehow tripled also, followed along with their salary trajectory.
Which goes along with what we were saying earlier, that guy's t-shirt, more money, more problems. If you're not fixing your fundamental problems at whatever phase you're at, then those will carry on whether you have more or less. It's like you got to get these principles, these principles, which is like your superpowers,
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword because, there are people right now coming out of college and they're making a lot of money. But imagine an early 20-something, they've never managed their finances or money in their life. They're blessed with a super high income. If not managed well, they're going to be doing just as poorly as if, they're making less than that or half that, so important, these skills.
Right. And I'm helping my daughter develop her YouTube channel, and it's a kids YouTube channel where we teach. It was something that when she was growing up, I was realizing, I was like, there's just not good content for kids. So I did what any former teacher who works in media would do. I started creating content that I thought would be helpful for her and her cousins and all of our friends, and they started watching it. And so we've grown the channel to 10,000 followers, which is awesome.
Way.
I'm super happy.
What is
about
it
that.
About?
Yeah. Ilani's Little World. We have these wild imaginary adventures that we are on a green screen and we press a magic button and we fly around to these places and learn about these things and go on adventures. It's like adventures in our mind, And I love it because we were stuck at home during these challenging times in the last couple of years, not able to go anywhere, but I still wanted to show kids, you can travel with your mind and open it. But as I started building that channel and I saw some of the money that some other creators were making, and I was like, well, if this thing takes off, we could have a lot of money that I would make sure a lot of it goes toward my daughter because it's her channel with me. But then I also was sitting there going, well, I need to teach her how to manage this. If she's, probably the chances of making Mr. Beast type money are slim, but what if you do have something like that? What if you do become successful, or even $100,000 a year? What if you get a moderately successful YouTube channel? How can you manage that,
Yeah, and you think of the weight of that because you, on one hand, as an adult, you're like, "Oh, that's such a blessing. That's so much money." But in the wrong hands, right? Not that it's just because it's your daughter, but it's her mind, right? And she doesn't have the maturity and the growth yet. So it's funny. I see the salaries are so high now for certain positions, but when you give it to maybe a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old that's never managed money in their life, it's not always a blessing,
There was a video that I watched about Charles Barkley, and he was talking to one of the guys on his team. I can't remember who it was, but it was one of the really famous basketball players of the 70s or 80s, I believe. And he sat there, and Charles was talking about his different cars. And the guy looked at Charles and said, "Charles, you need one car. You don't need all of this, because when you are done here, Like you don't have a long career coming in front of you. You know, like you're lucky if you get 10 years in the NBA, you know? And which is what I love about the NBA Players Association. Now, they have financial counseling for all of these guys coming in saying, you know what? You're suddenly going to be dealing with a lot of money. You need the people that can help you, because it's really a famous thing in sports and athletics. Like
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that get a lot of money and then the career is done and they are broke. But yet now you have this new this new thing of these people learning to take the money they make and spend it into empires. You look at Shaq or
Yeah.
Magic Johnson, Irving Johnson, or Shaq is so wealthy now, and he invested in sports clubs, like gyms, exercise
Yeah.
gyms, and things like that.
LeBron, he's another one that's
And-
done very well with his finances and money.
right?
Yeah, and building businesses.
But
I
again,
didn't know that about the NBA.
yeah, they I believe the NBA Players Association now has a financial account. They have this onboarding for the new players to say, hey, you know what? This is because think about it. Everyone knows about the guys that are these long-term, big
Oh,
names.
household
We know
names,
about
yeah.
Shaq. Yeah, but there's a whole bunch of other players that come through. They might make 2 million a year for 3 years, and then their career's done. And if you are living that big lifestyle, flying private jets everywhere, getting all of the diamond earrings, that 6 million is not going to last very long,
Yeah.
And so what are you going to do with
It's
it?
kind of similar to YouTube. I never thought about this, but one of the personal
Right.
finance creators, he always said that he was always into kind of squandering and saving the money because he said the algorithm can change. YouTube can change. It's like I'm on
Yeah.
a platform that I don't control, and I'm going to, do well while the going is going well, while everything's going well. But he's like, I don't know if I can sustain this. Or, he's also a personal finance YouTuber. He's like, there's more people entering the space. People's tastes change. I could run out of things to say. So, yeah, it's kind of fickle, some of those money sources, right? Because it's not guaranteed.
100%.
Yeah. And literally LinkedIn, YouTube can ban people, take people. I don't know how bad they are about all that stuff, or unmonetized things.
Well, we have there's an interesting thing that happened to, like, when the algorithm changed recently, our views on my daughter's channel dropped off a cliff. And we weren't doing anything differently, and it was just like we went from 50,000 views per reel to down to like 25. And we were like, what did we do? Which allowed me space to, and I didn't change anything. I'm like, we're just going to keep creating great content.
Yeah.
And hopefully it will find the people that need it to find it. And if it doesn't, it is an investment I'm making in my daughter's future, because I'm building her up as this smart kid, and we get to talk and learn about fun things. So for me, that channel, I don't care if it makes money. I care that I help build her brand and build her knowledge as we learn about these different things, because for that it's just fun and we get to share it with other kids.
That will pay off in so many ways.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, Ilani, maybe you get a scholarship to university because you've got this YouTube or something. Who knows? You don't know.
Yeah,
But
the journey.
you
and
put it
to
out
be
there.
known, and
It's
yeah.
even just the journey, right? Just you get this fun stuff.
Yeah.
But it allowed me to shift to your next superpower that you talked about, which was savings.
Yes.
Because what you just talked about, that YouTuber who was like, you don't know when it's going to get bad. And this, without diving into the pandemic and everything, everyone had this very good lesson in recent years that even though our world seems stable, it isn't.
Oh,
I
know.
Yeah, we all saw that recently. Talk to me about what you think about savings.
Oh, it's invaluable to have some cash saved away that's not invested, that's liquid, that you can touch. And, I used to think I just couldn't save for anything. Like, I used to be really bad about saving any money. But
Yeah.
I think everyone can do it and should do it. And it's a cushion between you and emergencies. You don't have to go into credit card debt. You don't have to spend on credit cards.
Yeah.
You're not, pulling from investments and all that. And life is just so much easier. You're not scrambling. There's not all this frenetic emotion around things. You're just like, okay, I'm going to pull it from this savings account. And yeah, it's something I personally struggled with, but I totally shifted into being more of a saver and just doing these automatic savings. And it's nice to just have that cash sitting there for you when you need it. I save up for vacations. I have an emergency fund that's just for emergencies. I pay a lot in property taxes, so that gets saved up all throughout the year because I have to make one big property tax payment. And just any kind of big like purchase where I'm not going to invest the money, why not save up for it? And it's that delayed gratification, same like you're talking about. You're trying to teach your daughter about the
Yeah.
journey and delaying gratification. You don't get everything you want right away. You might have to save up for months or
Yeah.
years. And it's teaching you that if you really want something, you're going to set aside money and be diligent and save for it.
I had this conversation with my daughter the other day. She was like, Daddy, what car do you really love? And I was like, well, I don't know. Why do you ask that? And she's like, well, if I get really rich someday, I'll buy you any car you want. And I sat there and I said, I don't need you to. As long as I have a simple, cheap car that gets me from point A to point B, I'm more than happy. And she's like, do you want a Lamborghini? I'll get you a Lamborghini. I was like, no, I prefer a Toyota. I like Toyotas. They're simple. They're easy to fix. And they go forever. And she says, well, then, if I have that money, what should I do with it? And I said, just save it. Put it aside. Set it aside so that when you can save up for something that you really want, maybe eventually you want to travel. You like to travel, right? Yeah. You like to go see Uncle Bill in Hawaii, right? Yeah, I love to go see Uncle Bill in Hawaii. Well, if you save money, then you can have enough for a fun trip. And then she's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
well, then what do we do after that? I said, well, you come home and you start saving more for the next thing that you like. And she's like, and I said, but sometimes your car, remember, we have a Toyota. And she's like, yeah. Well, what happens if we get a flat tire? And she's like, oh. And I said, that costs money. And if I'm not ready for that money, suddenly I can't pay for that flat tire. And we have to just walk everywhere. Oh, I don't want to walk everywhere. Right? So it was something I was trying to reframe. But what I noticed was already at 8 years old, there was this inherent, I need to buy something. And I love you, so I need to buy you a car. And I was just saying, I love you, and you don't need to. You
Oh,
should love yourself. You should love your future self and start saving for yourself.
yeah.
Take care of that,
Yeah.
because later on there will always be something.
Yes, I love that. And even just the idea of going on a trip and vacation. And I mean, it's also savings, it buys you time, right? Like you can go into
Yes.
maybe, hey, I'm going to have a prolonged job search or this isn't the right job. And, it'll save you from having to be desperate and just so many situations. There was a time when I took about a year off from working. And the only way I was able to do that was I had a lot of money saved up. And I was able
That's
to live
awesome.
off that savings for a year. And I was kind of passively looking for a job, and I eventually did line up something, but there was no rush. I wasn't about to run out of money. I didn't have to take a job just because I had to.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And see, and people that, and this is like the thing, like, so what is savings? If it was a superhero, the other day I was talking to people and they were like, what superpower would you want? And I was like, I'm always, my one answer every single time, it's teleportation, because I can pop anywhere, do anything.
Oh.
But they were like, I want to freeze time. And I was like, because then you have the same, it's just as good as teleportation. I was like, do you know how to fly a 747 or a jet? Because otherwise you're stuck in a small area. Certainly you can travel by car, go a long ways, but you're not flying back to Great Britain. You're not flying, you're going to be trekking there. Needless to say, not diving into that discussion right now. But a savings is kind of like, if you have savings, it is a little bit like the superpower of stopping time, because
I
you
love
have the ability to not stress. You have the ability to go, boop, all right, this isn't a problem right now. There was a great speech that I saw, and I think it was Steve Harvey, that said, money turns problems into just simple challenges. Like, it takes away this disaster and makes it simply a thing that you find a solution for. I used to dread traveling, and I was always trying to figure out why. And I finally figured out why. Because when I was traveling, I was just at the max amount of money I had. I had just enough to get from point A to point B. And I wasn't prepared for these problems. And when you travel, there's always something that comes up.
There is.
And there is. And if you have to be like, well, all right, you're going to have your luggage is overweight. And you see these videos of these people unpacking their suitcase and throwing all of the clothes onto their body. And I've done that before. And I was reading about Gen Z doing this because they didn't want to be charged. And good for them. That's actually a smart way not to be charged. But at the same time, if you don't have the money just to say, you know what, $50, yeah, I'm not going to throw on a million pairs of clothes, trying to like walk through security like a balloon because I've got 5 sweaters on because it was overweight. Like, isn't it nicer to have money saved up so that problem becomes a simple thing that you need a solution for?
Yeah, the last trip I took, I stayed in nicer hotels. There are days you're tired of walking, paid for really expensive Ubers, things like that. Did like the skip the line type of tickets, right? So didn't have to stand in line forever. You get to go to the front of the line and go right into the museum. Yep. And it's nice, those little things, they're just, it makes it so much nicer. And it's just, you're trading a little bit of money for that. But when you're prepared, you're just like, okay, well, you're already a little bit inconvenienced when you're traveling. That's what I consider it. You're inconvenienced almost the entire time. You're out of your element. You're trying to figure things out on the fly. You're trying to solve problems. And it's just, money makes it a lot easier because you're just like, okay, well, I'll also order in food to have delivered, like any night I'm tired or I don't want to go out to dinner. And it's just nice to have those little things. It's kind of like I have room service. Like I could get any restaurant to deliver to
That's awesome.
It's like if it's cold, I don't feel like walking or going out to eat somewhere. So it's just those little things. And you're right. When you have money and you're not worried about it, you're just like, I can get through this no matter what. Right.
Yeah. Well, if you had the ability to go back in time and give your younger self some financial tips, what tips would you give yourself?
Oh, I think one of my biggest problems when I was younger, it's not that I didn't know to do certain things. I just wanted to do everything all at once. I really didn't have a good order of operations. So it's like I knew about investing and I knew about saving money. I knew about budgeting. I tried to do a little bit of everything. And also the other biggest thing that I wish I did earlier was invest in a financial advisor, because I was kind of distrustful of financial advisors and the fees. And, I think a lot of smart people, they do this, like, I can do it myself type of attitude. I can, we have a culture of that now. Like you can look up anything on YouTube, you can go fix everything, but it's like, there are some things, it's just too important. And me, after personally losing a lot of money, trying to figure out investing on my own. Like I did things on margin, I did Robinhood, I did robo-advisors, I did single stocks. So I made just about every mistake you could, and realizing once I finally was like, okay, there's someone else that has more expertise. And even if there's a fee, and also just the mental energy it frees up. Because you're not trying to become this stock trader or read Yahoo Finance or predict anything. And you're also so emotionally tied to the money. You get so reactive. So these apps really allow you to trade all the time and change the allocation. And it's not really a good way. You kind of need to be more steady and buy and hold and, see how, invest for the long term rather than the short term.
Yeah. See, exactly. Well, one of the things too, and I love, there was a guest that I had come on and he made a great analogy about a mechanic. If I wanted to, I'm sure that I could change out the transmission on my car.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say, and I'm sure there are some amazing YouTube tutorials, and I'm pretty sure that if I took enough time, I could figure it out. I doubt my car is going to drive very well after I'm done. But I could figure it out, and I probably will have to take it to someone to then fix what I messed up, But that's even to say I have the right tools. I think one of the things I'm most proud of was that I actually once swapped out the starter in my car. Really hard to do. And I did it. I was like very excited about that. And that taught me one thing. I never want to swap out the starter on my own car again. Like, I really want to go to someone who knows what they're doing, because my goodness, it was not easy. And you know, with finances, when you're dealing with such a large room for mistake, you know, you can really hurt yourself if you do something wrong, versus if you get in with someone who can help you invest nice, slow and steady long term. Isn't that better?
Yeah, and they're this other neutral third party person, and you're not, you know, freaking out because you see something on the news, or you're not messing with the app and looking at it all the time and trading. And that's one thing I wish I did earlier. But just coming to that conclusion where it's like, I can't do everything. I don't have time or the energy. And like you're saying, it's just, if you think about it, these advisors, they help people retire all the time. You only have one retirement. Yeah. You're trying to figure it out as you're going. You're not even there yet. Right. And it's like
which brings us back full circle. The idea of seeking out people who can help, whether it be a coach in the beginning who can then recommend you to a financial advisor. One of the things that I noticed in my financial journey, and I think this is something that I would love for everyone out there who might be listening to remember, you are not alone. You don't have to be alone in this journey. I had this dream the other night, and it felt so good. And I met these people, and I was in San Diego. I moved back to San Diego in my dream, and I was sitting there with this financial advisor who was helping me right my ship. And I woke up feeling hopeful. And I was just like, that's what more people need. To remember that you are not alone, and that wherever you're at in your financial journey, you have the ability to right the ship. You have the ability to reorient and get things back to
Yeah. No, I love that sentiment, because I feel like even more so than now, people feel alone. They feel solo in their finances. It doesn't really matter what their marital state is. People can still feel like they're managing 100%. Money alone. And I think that's why it's so important, because it's like, you can't talk about it with your family or your friends, or, you know, people give really bad advice they get it from their coworkers or neighbors. So who do you really talk to? And if we're, kind of back to what we're talking about earlier, if you don't have those role models in your family, maybe just you have people around you that aren't very interested in it, the greatest thing is that it's someone else kind of giving you outside insight into your money that's not so emotionally tied, and it's kind of been through the journey and can help guide you. That person you can talk about. It's one of the most intimate things you could talk about with someone.